In other news, South Korea is witnessing growing political unrest after ballot shortages disrupted local elections across the country. Thousands of protesters have taken to the streets of Seoul demanding a fresh vote and questioning the credibility of the election process. While thousands of South Koreans staged overnight protests in Seoul demanding a rerun of this week's local elections after ballot shortages prevented some voters from casting their ballots. The demonstrations continued into the early hours of Sunday outside Seoul's SK Olympic Handball Stadium, where votes from the local election were being counted.
Since people end up voting while checking the vote count results on their phones, there are serious problems in the process. And the news report says some people had to go home without voting because there weren't enough ballot papers. I thought this makes no sense in an election where every citizen's right to vote should be guaranteed.
During the extended voting time, the vote count broadcasts had already begun and the exit poll results were already out. Because voting took place after those exit poll results were released, I believe there was no fairness at all, so I think the election should be nullified nationwide.
Protesters waved national flags, carried placards reading "Election Rerun" and chanted slogans calling for a fresh vote. Reports say that nearly 10,000 people gathered at the venue, with hundreds remaining through the night. The controversy began after South Korea's National Election Commission admitted that ballot shortages affected around 50 polling stations nationwide, including more than 30 in Seoul. Voting was also temporarily suspended at several locations due to supply delays. Election officials said that only enough ballots were printed for about half of eligible voters, citing large numbers of unused ballots in previous elections. But many voters rejected the explanation, saying these shortages undermine their democratic rights. Public anger intensified after National Election Commission Chairman Rota Yagdi resigned amid mounting criticism over the handling of the vote. The local elections were the first nationwide polls since President Lee Jae-myung took office, following the removal of former President Yoon Suk-yeol. While Lee's Democratic Party won most races, it failed to capture the key Seoul mayoral race. Political analysts say that the ballot shortage has raised serious questions about election management and accountability, with growing calls for a full investigation and a rerun of the affected vote.